Hello everybody, welcome in. Hope everybody's having a good day and a good week. My order of art supplies arrived today, so I was quite happy to get a package of Micron pens, including one in sepia, and my favorite size, the 03. So I've had this background sitting for a while, a couple of weeks, and I thought that black was going to look too harsh to use for the outline, so I've been waiting for the sepia to arrive, and I am glad I waited. I think it looks pretty good. So tonight's video is going to be mostly outlining, I think. If we move through it, we might get to a little bit of shadowing and highlighting. Hi, Raoul. Welcome in. Working with a brand new pen, and it's leaving little splotches, which Pigmas usually don't. So I guess if that's the worst thing I have today that troubles me, it'll be an okay day. Hi, Maya. How are things today, Raoul? It's good to see you. I'm glad to hear that, Raoul. I'm doing pretty good today. My art supplies that I ordered finally arrived. So I was beginning to worry. I kept checking the tracking website, and it said that they were sitting in the Midwest, and I'm out on the West Coast, and I don't quite know why a small box has to sit there for a while, 8 days, but it did. Or at least the tracking system said that's where it was. So when I woke up, there was a message saying there was a package on my front porch, and there it was. And it was just in time. It was my last drawing. I had run the 03 out of ink, and had also run the 05 out of ink, and had gotten caught up in adding the shadows and highlights to the drawings that I had made up to that point. And it can be a little frustrating when you are ready to sit down and do work, but you don't have the supplies. So I could have made do with the Sharpies, but the line quality of the Sakura pens it's much better suited to these small drawings. And we have rain, so the temperature was in the 60s, which was just lovely. Oh, nice. Raoul says he's making spaghetti sauce with mushrooms in the... I love pasta sauce with lots and lots of mushrooms. So I thought it might be kind of nice to switch up and go with one of the 8x8 drawings tonight. I got started on it a little bit early this evening, and we still have lots of territory to cover, so... Made myself a nice cup of tea before I got started, so I don't have to get up and go fuss with stuff. It's a funny thing about starting a live stream. Just as soon as I started, I think of 6 things that I have to go take care of. Mm-hmm. Galangal, they call it here. It's nice. It's almost, Raul was talking about a spice that he likes to add to his sauce. That's like ginger, but it almost, if I'm recalling correctly, isn't it a little bit lemony? It's a little bit more than ginger. I like it quite well. When I find it in the market, I'll get a piece of it. Pardon me if that was a... I'll try not to slurp into the microphone. The tea was a little hotter than I thought it was. That sounds absolutely delicious. I love all of those flavors. We've got Raul's talking about coconut and lemongrass and ginger. Do you use garlic in Indonesian dishes? Is that one of the ingredients? Nice. I like cuisine that uses spices as an ingredient instead of just sprinkling on a few flakes afterwards as an afterthought. Some American and British cooking just go with salt and pepper, and that's not spice. That's not enough. I went through a cookbook of recipes my mom left, and some of the recipes would call for using 1 to 3 drops of Tabasco sauce. Tabasco pepper sauce is, I want to say, around 5,000 on the Scoville scale, which is to say it's really not very hot. If you haven't ever had spicy foods and you put some Tabasco on something, it'll taste very spicy, but compared to many world cuisines, 3 drops of Tabasco is, it's barely detectable. So now today when I make those recipes, I just pour the sauce in. And it's interesting how recipes evolve, how we expand our palates. Boy, I am just unhappy with the way this pen is leaving. It's leaving a lot of spots, and I'm trying to draw it up after the pen stroke, and I gotta say the black ones really don't ever do that, but this is a brand new sepia one, and maybe the sepia ink is a little bit different formulation. So I will try not to say too many naughty words, but I'm thinking them. So I don't like the drips, but I do really like the softened tone. I think it suits these colors much better than black does. I had a 3x3 sample that was using these same colorway, and I thought the black just looked a bit harsh with it. Yeah, Tabasco is really. Today, when I have Tabasco, I will just shake it all over the place. But when I was a kid, just a drop or two just felt like fire. A couple of years ago, I discovered another Louisiana-made hot sauce called Crystal, and it's very similar to Tabasco. It's very vinegary, and it uses cayenne peppers, aged cayenne peppers. But I pour that stuff on things like it's ketchup. I'll have to take a look for some Samyang noodles, is what Raul is recommending here. I'll have to keep an eye out and give that a try. Years ago, when I was in college, I lived near a Chinese restaurant, and it was run by a husband and wife couple. She was from Hong Kong, and he was from China. And they were very supportive of people who were students. So if I went in on a weeknight, not a Friday or Saturday, they would prepare like family meal for the students and just charge us a few dollars. And my favorite to eat there was food cooked Szechuan style with lots of spice. And by the time I graduated college, I had developed such a taste for Szechuan spices. I'd order my food hot +3, and the husband, who was the cook, would come out and say, "Oh, you can't have it that spicy." I can remember arguing and just saying, "Please, really, I really want spicy food today. If you'd fed me that hot +3 the first time I came into that restaurant, I would have been sitting there in tears. But there's something about spicy food that is... It must have something to do with the way it makes you release endorphins and various chemicals that it always seemed to reduce pain. And I can't really explain the sort of feeling of well-being that eating a really spicy meal with people who consider you like their family. It nourishes you in ways that are really hard to explain. So is Samyang, is that a pepper sauce that I can buy in a bottle, or what kind of preparation should I look for? The town that I live in has one Vietnamese restaurant and a handful of Thai restaurants, but I can remember when the first Thai restaurant opened in this town. It's so delicious. I really love how they use a lot of coconut milk and basil, Thai lemon basil. That's just such a wonderful flavor. Okay, so the Samyang noodle, is that packaged maybe like a flat package, like a packet of ramen noodles with a spice packet in it? Brought a couple of polished rocks out for inspiration, and I'm going to set them aside because I keep running my paper into them. But you know my theory, one can't have too many rocks and pebbles. Okay. I probably could buy those off Amazon, but I have more fun going out and tracking stuff down in the wild. So there's a pretty good sized city nearby that has several Asian markets. And even has a Chinatown district, so a lot of the grocery stores carry some packaged stuff, but don't necessarily have departments with fresh food, but they have a lot of shelves of things that are imported. But there are a couple of stores that do have fish counters and meat counters, and I think, trying to think, there's one in Portland called Uwajimaya that their main focus is Japanese food, and I think they might even have a bakery. I think I recall buying baked goods that were packaged with their labels, so I don't know if the store that I go to is the one that not all the grocery stores have an in-house bakery, but they'll have one in the chain that produces baked goods, and then they'll take them by truck daily to the other stores in the chain. So I've noticed lately that my drawings have tended to include lots and lots of small pebbles. So I was making an effort this time to outline some bigger rocks. Looking back at the sketches, I think the ones that include a good variety of sizes, they're much more visually interesting to look at. So when I'm drawing, I find outlining lots and lots of little shapes to be a pleasant way to do the drawing, but then when it's done, sometimes you get a more interesting composition if you can vary the sizes more instead of just crowding the field with lots of small shapes. And of course, the more I look at the space, the more individual subdivisions I see. So I'm slowing down with this drawing compared to my usual speed, just so that I can find more large shapes. Nice. Raul is watching and sketching. I like that. I very much like that people are engaging in some creative work. So I will never say, oh, I want you to put everything down and just pay attention to this. Nope. I would prefer that people who are watching are also working on something with their hands or however they make art. Love it. Love to hear it. So a little bit later on, when I take a break from sketching, I will give you a sneak peek at the Japanese gouache paint, the Gansai Tambi. I ordered a set in Art Nouveau colors, and I was really pleased. It's hard to tell when you're ordering online. You can look at the pictures and something will look like the colors will look, it'll look beautiful. It'll look like something that you might like, and then you really never know until it arrives just how well the photos were taken and how well my phone reproduces those photos. So I opened the box and had a big smile. So I'll do that a little bit later on. Fighting a perfectionist urge with this pen. Raul is asking if do I like TV series, and Raul watches TV series all TV series that exist, and has just binge watched Emily in Paris and Wednesday and Stranger Things. I have not seen any episodes of any of those, but I know a little bit, like I've seen some clips, and I know some of the actors. Stranger Things has Millie Bobby Brown, right? And we've got Jenna Ortega in Wednesday. Now, what is Emily in Paris? Is she working in marketing, and then she gets transferred to Paris, and so she's trying to fit in there? Or public relations? Okay, yeah, I was I knew she was the actress Lily Collins, who plays Emily, and Emily in Paris is Phil Collins' daughter from. But now I've just completely blanked on the name of the band from. Phil Collins is a drummer and singer. Now I've got the drum intro from Something in the Air Tonight just banging in my head, which is a good one. Right now, I have discovered a trove of episodes of Dexter right now, which is kind of dark, but for some reason I find that entertaining. I think Dexter's almost a little bit tongue in cheek. And I really like the character of Deb in that show because she curses like a sailor. Like, most of the time, the first word out of her mouth or dialogue is profanity, and I don't know why I find that entertaining. I think we all know someone in our lives who talks like that, and it's kind of the stereotype is usually it's a fella who is cursing like that, but oh, Straight Under, yeah, yeah. Oh, he was. I didn't realize he was in 911. Or are you talking about Peter Krause? I was thinking of Michael C. Hall. Michael Hall, is that? Congratulations, Maya. Yeah, so they did a reboot of Dexter that was supposed to be filmed, I think fictionally. It was meant to be in Oregon, here in the Pacific Northwest, and I live in Oregon, so I was watching that the other day going, I know that bridge, and I don't know, they filmed it like we regularly have 4 feet of snow piled up all over the place, and that's not that's not most of the state. But we do have an inordinate number of convictions of people for being serial killers here in the Pacific Northwest. For I guess some part of the world has to claim them. I have seen True Detective. I saw the first 3 seasons, I think, and I haven't seen the season yet with Jodie Foster. But I do. I just watched Flight Plan the other day with Jodie Foster. I do enjoy her performances so much. Flight Plan is the one where she gets on an airplane and her daughter gets kidnapped, but nobody believes her. And she plays an engineer, so she's familiar with the airplane, and she just single-handedly foils a hijacking plot. I saw the season. I think it was the first season of True Detective with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. And like that's some creepy stuff there. That's kind of the outer limits of what I can watch, because otherwise I'd give myself a lot of nightmares. And how about American Horror Story? Did you watch any of those series? I kind of enjoy these new shows where it's got the same name, but they change the cast of characters and the storyline to a different. It's not really. I was going to say a different setting, but it's not really a different. I think there's still. I think American Horror Story kind of stays in Louisiana, right? See, I've refused to pay for cable TV for the last 10 years because we have one company in this town. It's a monopoly, and they are really overpriced. So I got cranky about it a few years ago, and I said, "All right, I'm not giving you guys any more money." So I haven't had cable TV for a long time. So I have to wait till things make their way to other platforms before. So I haven't seen Madhouse. Is Madhouse the one with Lady Gaga? Yeah, so those will be on my watch list as soon as pirated episodes. I confess, I watch pirated episodes on YouTube. I'm that criminal. And Paramount is releasing full episodes of Dexter right now, so it's not pirated. So good entertainment, no guilt. I think the first series that I saw of that was Coven. And Jessica Lange was just spectacular in that. Really, really a different sort of a role. Pardon me. Yeah, Maya says she hasn't watched regular TV in ages. I think I really started to lose interest in regular TV once the programming shifted to reality TV. Oh, I just. So, do you guys want to hear a reality TV story? Some insider stuff on. So, in the late 1990s, I was still recovering from the rehab that I had undergone after I had the bone tumor that broke my leg, and I was working from home and had started to work with an author on a screenplay. And he would email me the chapter drafts. We were doing two things. I was working as an editor doing something that's called plot doctoring. There's a lot of different types of editing, and So some people will edit and they'll proofread for grammar and misspellings and that kind of editing. That was not what I was doing. What I was doing was working with authors to help them develop their plot, which was actually a really parallel kind of a work compared to the trial work that I had done when I was an attorney. And as an attorney, when you're preparing for a trial, you have to figure out who the characters are, right? Who are your witnesses? Who are the people that are important to the trial? And who are the people who are not important to the trial? And you want to remove the unimportant people and stories out of the trial notebook. A trial notebook is literally a binder of the arguments that you're going to make and the laws that pertain and a list of the evidence and reports, expert witnesses, everything that goes into getting the verdict that you want. And that's really similar to the plot of a fiction story. You have characters that are important that move the story forward. You have sometimes extraneous characters that just waste a reader's time and don't move the story forward. And authors can write these characters, they get really attached to them. But if they're impeding the telling of the story or they're not moving the story forward, sometimes you need to edit them out. So it was a lot like the work I did as a lawyer, but it just was in the fiction realm. So I would read the stories and give feedback, and then the author would do rewrites, and we would just work our way through till we tightened up the story. And then this particular manuscript had previously been optioned to have a movie made of it, but the rights had reverted back to the author, usually with options. Those are for shorter periods of time, under 10 years, and a production company might pay a couple $1,000s for the rights to produce that story as a movie or a television show, something along those lines. And then I think this one had been optioned for a period of 6 years. And when the rights reverted back to the author, he wanted to try to sell the screenplay again, and he brought me in, so I started to work with him on this story. And we are well through it. Like, we've made our way clear to the last chapter of the book, and we're doing rewrites, and it had reached the point where the story had been sent out to try to get a literary agent to represent it and help us to sell it. When the author I was working with had become very fascinated with the show Survivor, and he had been submitting audition tapes to Survivor. And he submitted an audition tape for the very first Survivor show before it was really known on American television. And he got some interest. The casting people would tell him, yeah, we're looking for more of... They gave him a little bit of information of how to tailor his next audition tape. So he kept persisting. And eventually he sent in an audition tape, and he had his partner also... She was holding a heavy bag, and he was boxing and hitting the heavy bag, and she was behind the bag, kind of holding it as he was punching into it. And he sent this in, and the casting agents got really excited about it and decided they would cast his partner. So he was more than a little bent out of shape about that. He was pretty unhappy about it, but his partner, who they lived together in the same household, and she got called out to Santa Monica for auditions, and she got cast in Survivor. And it turns out when you get cast in Survivor, all of your immediate family, and in particular anybody that you cohabitate with, has to sign a contract that gives CBS the right of first refusal on all artistic works you make. And that included the manuscript we had been working on. I had been working on for more than a year. So that we had gotten an agent at CAA, which is an artist agency in California, a really big agency for representing actors, singers, writers, all kinds of creative people. And we had to write a letter and cancel our contract with CAA to represent the manuscript and pull it back. And I didn't know anything about it until after he'd already signed the contract. And I probably could have, brought some kind of a lawsuit, but there wasn't. That's just not what I wanted to do at all. So, and that was how Survivor impacted my bottom line. So, I did some other work after that. Cultivated a few sources that were not my writing partner. Okay, Paul asks, is Survivor scripted? It's not scripted, but it is coached. And what they would do with the contestants is have a production assistant interview the diary sessions. Anytime they pull a contestant out and they're just on their own, there's no other contestants around, and they seem like they're talking to the camera, there's a production assistant there who's asking them questions. And I've spoken with contestants who've said that they would just keep them in those interviews and they would ask them the same question again and again and again until they got an answer that was what they were looking for their storyline. So in some ways, I think that's really even more manipulative to the contestants than handing them a script and saying, we want you to play the villain and we want you to form an alliance with this person or that person. So, yeah, it is certainly affected by the production crew. And they do have directions that they want the contestants to go. So, I have a lot of objections to the way they conduct business. For one thing, they take people out of U.S. jurisdiction, and they take them to places in the world where they do not have the protections of workers' comp. They tell people, and they argue, that the contestants are in a game show and not employees, but they're not free to go home. They are contractually obligated to stay in this place, and they don't have access to medical care. I know of a contestant who returned to the United States and was hospitalized because she was in kidney failure. So people are in these foreign jurisdictions that don't have workers' compensation. They are, when they come back, they have these obligations to appear on morning talk shows and then on talk shows. And their travel is paid for, their hotel is paid for. But they have to provide their own wardrobes, their own makeup for that part. And very few people, except for the top 2 or 3 finishers, can actually even break even. So they're not compensated for what they do, and they undergo an awful lot of physical hardship and even injury. And meanwhile, the machine that is Survivor just makes money hand over fist on it. So I don't think it's a very ethical way to treat people. Hey, Randy Rabbit. Yeah, they do. Raul says that the contestants in Spain, the participants lose lots of weight. Yeah, they lose lots of weight. They come back with dengue fever and parasites and all kinds of health problems. I mean, that shouldn't be a game where people are having their health impacted. Anyway, so I found myself with a lot of time on my hands, so I started to track down people who were working around these production sites. And since Survivor didn't pay people particularly well, it was fairly easy to develop these confidential sources. And so I went to work on a website that published spoilers, and we banded together and were able to do things like publish the I don't know how people feel about this. I was a little cranked out of shape because my way of making money that door got completely shut in a way that felt very unfair to me, and I had all this time on my hands. And then I started to learn about how the people that were being contestants on Survivor were treated. And so my response to that, when I find out people are being gaslit and abused, is to try to put a stop to it. And one of the things, I could see was that CBS was making a heck of a lot of money on this. And at one point in Las Vegas, you could bet on who would be evicted from the island each night on Survivor. Now, CBS wasn't making money on this. Las Vegas bookies were making money. But the group of people I was working with the website, we started to identify the contestant that was going to be voted off the island and published that ahead of time, which made the CBS lawyers just lose their ever-loving minds. And it also shut down the betting on Survivor in Las Vegas. But they were working very hard to try to keep that information confidential. Oh, I do enjoy, Raul is bringing up the amazing race. That one has always looked like fun. The first few times I saw it, I thought, that looks like a lot of fun. And you watch it for a while and you realize that people are going, like they're just rushing through countries and they don't have any time to stop and sightsee or enjoy a meal. And so I love to travel, but I also like to take time and enjoy what I'm doing. But anyway, CBS was fond of using a list of aliases. And they would, back before 9/11, they could book people on airlines using an alias. And they conducted their casting at the same hotel in Santa Monica, California. So we just infiltrated them with an employee who had access to the list of people who were staying at the hotel during the casting sessions. And then CBS would use the same alias to book the hotel. And they were so cheap, they only wanted to use the same hotel in New York City. So they would make a reservation. So we got employees in both hotels who would disclose whose reservation was for that week, and we'd match it up to the list of aliases. And once we had connected the alias to the contestant name, we knew who was booked into the hotel. And we used that tactic through about 3 seasons of Survivor. And in the week before the episode would run, as soon as they would make the reservation under the alias name, we would have cracked it, and we would publish who was going to get booted off the island each week. So I would have rather been working on the manuscript, but they decided they were going to curtail my work, so I had to find something to do with my time. Anyway, we just kept cultivating sources here, there, and everywhere, and it eventually reached the point where we could identify who the contestants were, especially after 9/11. You couldn't fly with an alias. You had to use ID to book your ticket. And once they did that, and they always flew contestants into the same airport. So I imagine it really wasn't much of a dent in the old CBS coffers, but we did keep some people on their toes trying to keep the contestants and the winners secret for a while. So it just goes to show you really don't know who you might be dealing with on the internet. People can certainly find out tons of information about you, where you go, what you're up to. So I think it's safe to say I am not a fan of reality TV shows, and when I have opportunities to throw a wrench in their works of being harmful to people, I will be a wrench flinger. So I didn't like how they treated contestants. I didn't like how they treated the family and friends of contestants. And I also really don't like how they use the programming and create these artificial narratives. And I mean, making money off of putting people into such physical distress that they end up in the hospital, that's really not a very decent way to treat other people. Anyway, I would never recommend that anybody participate as a contestant in any production from Endemol, which is the production company for... I don't know if they continued to be the same production company for the later episodes for the current Survivor, but they were involved in production for a lot of seasons of it. All right, I'm going to take a look at the chat here. I've just been jabbering away, and yeah, Maya says, I hate reality shows. They are not reality at all. That is quite true. Oh, Who Was the Mole had Anderson Cooper. And one of the very early episodes, there was a piece of paper that said Bill is the mole. And I had watched the editing of Survivor long enough to know that Bill was the mole. So once I saw that, it's like they weren't very subtle in the way they edited that show, but it sure was entertaining to see Anderson Cooper, like riding along in a car as the contestants are slogging up a hill, and he's got a nice refreshing beverage, and he's like, "Well, I guess I'll see you there," and the car pulls away. I find him very entertaining. I will confess that one of my guilty pleasures is, and I haven't seen it in ages, but I used to really enjoy watching America's Next Top Model. And then, as you do with those things, Randy says she's gonna go get a snack. And now I'm very curious. So, anyway, in the midst of my spoiler days, I would hear that CBS legal department was sending out all of these non-disclosure warnings to the people who had signed contracts, and I think I got copies of those letters, and from the looks of them, they were really scolding people about disclosing information about survivor contestants and their movements, but they really never could figure out. It looked like they suspected people that were in that group. And I wasn't in that group. I had never signed a contract with CBS. So I had no legal obligation whatsoever to keep any kind of secrets on behalf of CBS. And the more I would hear about something that they had done and refusing to pay for somebody's medical bills after causing them physical harm to create entertainment, I would just kind of double down on finding some sort of a way to cost them a little bit of money. So the spoiler community did have an impact. We did change. I think our activities caused CBS to change the ways that they edited the show, and it caused them to change their advertising strategies around it. And at one point I recall that they kind of got on to us that the leak might be coming from the lodging area, and that was certainly not the only source that I used in that work. Because they had a whole department, it's just determined to try to keep the secrets, the production secrets. So once we would secure a source, we didn't just stop, we would try to double down or double up that source. So if we found an employee who was willing to share their information, we would look to find other employees who were also willing. I don't know if you guys will recall, but at one point the Survivor production used to have the final tribal council on the island or at the location. And what that accomplished was giving every single contestant the answer to who won Survivor. And you'd have 16 contestants, and they would come back, and I don't know that the contestants were necessarily being sharing secrets. I think that they were keeping secrets. But I think as you talk to someone who's been a contestant, and they would get together and have barbecues or weddings or whatever in between the time they returned from the location to when the series would air. And if you could get information from their emails, you'd just start to see how they were treating each other. And if there was animosity, and it would be fairly easy, if the more information you got, the more you had a chance of deducing who everybody was kind of being snarky about. And a lot of times, these folks are really competitive. So when somebody else would be the winner, you would see that they were just being kind of bitchy about this contestant or that contestant. And there was a series that was shot in the Marquesas that was won by a contestant named Nalia. And early on, you could tell people were really nice about her, but then as it got closer to the date that the finale was going to be released, there was a lot of snarkiness. So that was a big part of how we ran down that she was going to be the winner of that season. Just knowing a little bit about human nature. Yeah, Raul says, I had mentioned that I at one point really enjoyed watching America's Next Top Model, and Raul says, but watching it back, Tyra was so mean. I think that was kind of, there were a couple of episodes where I thought I really felt for the girls that were getting sent home, and it just seemed like it was a bit of an abusive setup, and I stopped enjoying watching it. So I know what you mean there. Raul asks, about am I in a wheelchair? And sorry to ask. That's don't feel sorry. You're fine. I had a bone tumor that broke my leg. I had gone to the doctor saying my leg hurts, and they all just kind of went, "Well, you twisted your knee." And I had something called a giant cell tumor of bone that when it broke my leg, there were about 50 cases a year worldwide, so it's really rare. And at my age group, I was in my late 30s, so most cancers of the bone are metastases of other types of cancer. Primary tumors of bone are very, very rare, and so it's a rare. I mean, it's not even an orphan illness. It doesn't even have enough cases to be an orphan illness. And in the 26 years this year, a survivor of it. And in all of that time, I have never met another person who's had giant cell tumor of the bone. So, as you might imagine, when the femur is broken, that's a pretty serious injury. And with tumors, this is a long answer to kind of a short question, but it destroyed a lot of the bone. So they put in titanium hardware and bone cement and basically said, you've kind of got one chance to heal this up. You can't afford to do anything to break it, because it was sort of touch and go whether I had enough bone for them to be able to save my leg. And in fact, in the first month, they thought that I was dealing with a really metabolically active cancer. So they were telling me I might have like 6 months to live. And like I said, 26 years, I'm still here. But I did spend about a year using a wheelchair. And I could also walk around like at home using crutches because parts of my house were wheelchair accessible, but not all of it. So it had to be completely non-weight bearing for more than, I think it ended up being about 8 months. I wasn't even allowed to put my toes on the floor. And it sounds pretty scary, but again, I'm still here and I do go hiking slowly, and I lost about an inch of bone on that side, but it's all good. And then a few years later, the I had a second surgery where they went in and they took out the hardware and they reshaped some of the bone because it when bone heals, it just goes gung ho and it heals all over the place and it goes all kinds of directions. So I had like bone spurs that they had to take out. And you remember the part where I said they thought I had 6 months. So they made a repair that they thought would last 6 months. And about 5 years into it, the titanium plate had shifted and some of the screws had broken. So I had another surgery and they took that out. And by that time I had grown a lot of bone, so there was a lot to work with. But they also used some donor bone that somebody's family had donated. So I, as always, will always shout out people who make that really, really, it's an impossible decision when your loved one has died and the team comes and they ask you if you want to donate organs and if you want to donate tissue. And somebody's family said yes. And I walk today because somebody's family said yes. So always have so much gratitude for people who are organ and tissue donors and for the families who do ultimately sign those consent forms. And so for a short time after that graft, I also had to use some assistive devices, but it healed up really well. And I've had 21 years being able to walk around because of that. So I think, it's kind of shocking news when I tell people that story and I can often tell like the look on their face or their words are like, you had a tumor, that's horrible. Yeah, it's horrible, but the part of that story that I live with, or I make my choice to live with, is that there were amazing surgeons who could build a bit of a scaffold so that bone could grow, so that I didn't have to have my leg amputated. And then the really deep, inexpressible amount of gratitude I have for somebody to donate bone tissue that could be used to help provide a structure so that I could walk today. So I think it's interesting. I mean, I went through the world for the better part of a year using a wheelchair and trying to navigate spaces, and this was in the late 1990s. And I mean, still today, I go through stores and I think, this isn't very accessible. It's not accessible to a person who's got balance issues and has to use a cane, let alone for somebody that was using a wheelchair. Like just try to go to Target and then try to walk in between the clothing racks and department stores. Like we have a Macy's in this town, and they use these circular racks, and they put them so close that even if you're just walking without using a cane, you have to turn sideways to get in between them. And we still have a lot of work to do to make things really fairly accessible to everybody. Do I watch Drag Race? I've seen a few episodes of it. So yeah, Raul says they record 3 endings with 3 winners, and then the real winner is the one they will air at the season finale. Yep, and they do that because there are dedicated spoilers out there. Yeah. No, I'm good today. I think the amount of pain that I had, I wasn't really left with any chronic pain in my leg. I had probably the same amount of pain that anybody who broke their leg would have. So I feel very fortunate about that. And sometimes I have this point of view that like I could have not made it out of that hospital room, and it's just like it's remarkable to me sometimes to think about. I can remember because I was in the hospital for about a month after the initial break, and they were trying to figure out what to do. And I think I've talked about that before because I'm the kind of I don't know. I'm autistic, and so for me, like to comprehend things, I like to be able to gather a lot of data, and I like to try to know what the facts of something are. And I'm not real good at taking somebody's word for something. So when the doctor said, you've got this really active metastatic cancerous tumor, and you might have it the outside 6 months, I kind of checked with myself, and I thought, that didn't really resonate with my internal feelings about my own life force. I don't really know how to explain it. So I was trying to understand, kind of come to grips with all this information they're telling me. Because, I mean, one day you're walking along and you think you've broken your leg, and then shortly thereafter you've got some doctor telling you that your reality is actually really different. And yet all the logic in my brain was not agreeing with what the doctor was trying to tell me. So I asked to see the lab report from the biopsy. And when I read it, the pathologist was saying all kinds of things about how it didn't really look like the type of tumor that the doctor was saying it was. And there was a little note at the bottom that said, I think you should rule out giant cell tumor. Actually said GCT. Under the recommendations, rule out GCT. And then just a signature. And I thought, I don't know what that means. I'm going to find out what that means. And I asked the surgeon, and she's like, we never see GCT. And I'm like, well, what is GCT? And she's like, that's giant cell tumor. And I'm thinking, oh, I've never heard of that. She goes, and you won't, because it just never happens. And anyway, but I just kept asking the question and refusing to sign this form that she wanted me to sign to consent to a treatment that I didn't want to have. So eventually they did a second biopsy, and they sent it off to the Mayo Clinic, which is a really renowned clinic in the United States. And lo and behold, that initial pathologist was correct. It did end up being giant cell tumor, and the treatment for that is really different. If they had treated me like it was Ewing sarcoma and given me chemotherapy and radiation, that treatment just makes giant cell tumor grow really more aggressively. So if they had gone on with their treatment protocol, I would have ended up not surviving. So if you have an intuition and you're dealing with doctors, they're not necessarily, they're experienced, they've got a lot of knowledge, they might have expertise, but they are practicing medicine. and it is called The Art of Medicine. So if I had blindly just accepted what they were saying and ignored my intuition, I probably wouldn't still be here. Anyway, and that stuff with Survivor, it was in the year, in the 24 months right after I had gone through that experience. So I was feeling a little bit like, it's kind of hard to explain it, but I felt like I was on free time, like I was just on bonus time, and that it didn't really matter too much what I did. And I also felt a little bit bulletproof because I'd survived this crazy thing that I didn't know anybody else who'd ever even faced it. I think today I put my energy towards still, trying to fight something that is manipulating and using other people, but it's more real world and less in the entertainment industry. Because one thing that we can say about those people who are contestants on Survivor, especially today, there's so much out on the internet about the abuses of those production companies. So they do have a chance to learn about it. They are volunteering to go there. They do have opportunities to be informed about how the production is conducted. And if anybody thinks that they're really going into a fair competition in a reality TV show, I can't educate that out of somebody. I can't help them come to a better understanding. That's a lesson that they're going to have to learn from themselves. But it is the same sort of a drive to help people not be abused that has me speaking out about high demand religions and coercive control groups. Because I think the people that are looking for a place to belong, they're not signing up for a reality TV show. They're trying to find a spiritual practice. And they don't deserve to be abused. They don't deserve to be worked to death and have their bank accounts emptied and to be isolated and told they can't talk to their families. Oh, you guys are talking about Bachelor and Bachelorette. I've seen some of those episodes, and I gotta say, I can't get past that first scene where the gals all walk out and then they're wearing these dresses with their their boobs are just hanging out, and they've got 10 pounds of makeup on and hair extensions, and I'm like, if they were real people, kind of just wearing their coming in from doing chores outfits. And I think there was another one that's like about marrying a farmer. But it's so contrived, and they're put in this artificial environment, and they're locked away from their confidants, their friends, their people who would say, yeah, no, that's not a good guy for you, or yeah, that gal she's not your speed. And I do think that we form relationships. When we're trying to form relationships, it helps to have feedback from people who know us and love us. And cutting people off from being able to talk about that with their friends and their buddies, their brothers, their family, like it doesn't seem like it's going to end well. Alrighty, just checking the chat here. Yeah, so Raul says he has cancer that runs in his family. Yep. Bone, breast, and lung cancer. Yeah, my stepsisters are, one of them she passed from breast cancer. She was on her sixth time it had come back, and had finally came back with inoperable tumors that were in her head and neck, and but both of them have both of the genes for breast cancer, and their cousins and aunts, and also my stepmom have all dealt with it. There's a large genetic component to some of these diseases, and so my surviving stepsister has had prophylactic mastectomies and reconstruction, and even with that, she's had a bout of breast cancer, because even when they do the mastectomy, they try to get every bit of tissue, but that cancer is so persistent, and it does try to find a way. I will always say this, I don't know why humans are, like, we know our lives are finite, and yet we are just surprised when we come towards the end of it. Like, how does this happen that we're not able to just persist and survive beyond that? Alrighty. So, it's been kind of a heavy episode tonight. You guys want to take a look at some colors and some paints and see what the FedEx delivery guy brought me today? I thought about doing an unboxing video, because, those are kind of popular. But this is the setup, and it's small, and it's not really, I'd have to figure out a whole different lighting and setup, which technically I'm not there yet. But so we got the pens. I got a little bit of this permanent white acrylic ink. I don't know about that jar. I didn't recall that it was in a flat top jar like this when I was looking at the website, so I usually think of ink as coming in jars that have droppers, but oh no, it's just a big old mess. Huh. And it looks really dried out too, so yeah, that looks like a bust. It's about half full, and it is not fluid at all. I did give it a shake earlier, and I thought, it didn't seem to be moving around much, so. Well, it's a water-based pigment. I can add water. Replace cap firmly. Okay. Highly opaque white ink for highlights and corrections. So I thought this said on the website, if it's a water-based pigment, then it's gonna be rewettable. So I thought that I was getting a permanent sort of a thing. Well, I like Zig and I like Kuretaki, so I guess we'll just have to give it an experiment and see how it works. So I ordered some pearly colors, and this is I think the pearls are, let me take a look here and see. We've got shimmering Gansai, well, it doesn't say that it's gouache. The other just standard non-pearl colors do say that they're gouache, so I'm gonna guess these might be a little bit more translucent because they are just calling them a water-based paint. And I did get a duplicate. One of my sets has white gold. I was kind of wondering, like, I do love purples, so I would have liked to have seen a purple, but we will give these a try and see. I'm guessing I might be able to get a nice lavender mixing with that pink and that blue. But isn't that green just delicious? I'm so fond of greens. Pearl, May Green, made in Japan. And that's like 2 inches by, I want to say, an inch. So it's a really generous amount of paint. I haven't tried them yet. I know, I get like 5 exclamation or 5 questions. I wanted to so badly, and I thought about it. I got them all out and I gave them a good fondling, and then I decided I wanted to show you guys before I got it all mucked up. So we will do that. I will probably do that tomorrow. So there's the pearl colors, and I love interference pigments. Okay, all right, okay. Let's swatch these buggers. And they come in a little cardboard container, so I'm going to break them out of here, and let's just quickly switch to the palette so I don't ruin my table. Oh, we'll leave that down. Pardon, I know the camera's going to try to focus 27 different ways, so give it a second here. Ooh, my palette got a whoop. All right. Ooh, did you see how much brighter those colors got when I put a little water on them? Wow. Oh, chat. I love chat. Let's push these guys up and get this more in frame for you. I know. Wet the brush, wet the paper. All right. Y'all ready for this? I know. Now, poor Raul, he's been here for an hour and a half. And he had to go. The postman just rang, so. I'm going to get a little bit more water on these guys. I hate to start without him. He's just been hanging in here. I know, it just doesn't it just feel like it's been like a month just waiting for these things to get here. All right. I'm going in with the pink. Oh, it's so pretty. All right. Wow, okay. It looks like it's given us pretty full coverage, and it just glides on. Okay. Let's see if I can. What happens if we use it as a wash? Wow. Okay, that is pearly and shimmery. Do you know how hard I am trying not to just go squee? This is so pretty. Oh, wow. Okay. So it does cover like a gouache, and then it just makes these beautiful shimmery washes. Oh, wow. Alrighty. That was pearl pink. Hi, Sandra Louise. The Pebble drawing summoned you. Okay. I'm going a little bit slow because we're waiting for Raoul to come back. But here was our Pebble drawing from this evening. I got a new sepia colored Pigma marker, so I went with the full 8x8. And then you have arrived just in time for the bonus portion of tonight's programming. I ordered some new paints, and at the insistence of chat, I am swatching some of these bad boys out, so. We are just getting ready to do Pearl Scarlet Red. And let's see what this looks like. I really like how nicely these paints rehydrate. Is that the word I want? Reconstitute. You just spray a little water on and oh, nice. Yeah, so we've got the new paint swatching porn section of tonight's program, I guess. Raoul, you're back. I told Maya that I was gonna work because I was thinking tomorrow I can do it in natural daylight, but Maya egged me on to do some swatches with these new paints. I did. Look how pretty. It's the sound effects mostly. It's the oohs and the it's. I'll just stop there. Oh my goodness. I really like that. They call it Scarlet. I like it. I would also like another one that was more red, and I would like another one. No, they all come that way. Even the regular ones. They come in these little pans, and they're. I think they just need to. You need to leave a little bit of room so that you can. If they were filled clear to the top, then you wouldn't have room to add any water or smush the paint around or swish it around. Yeah, they're calling it Scarlet. They're beautiful. I'm gonna do these in. Let's go with the yellow next. Make sure I got that brush washed out before I. Yeah, they soak up the water pretty quickly, so. One thing I always kind of worry about metallic or pearly paints, that they separate, but the pigment looks very well mixed through the pan. Oh. And I'm guessing that these will intermix. Yeah, I can, I can probably, if I want to make that more orange, vermilion is one of the colors that I got today, so I'm sure that I can add these pearl paints to the regular Gansai Tambi. And get a whole range of hues. Ooh, wow. They dilute beautifully. I'm so excited about this. Okay. I do love green. Oops, got a little bit. A lot of water in that one. Move that up a little bit so that the chat doesn't roll over the top. So that one's already dried down. I really like this effect of the pigment is going to the edge of the wet area. That's an effect I take advantage of when I'm drawing or painting flowers, so. Alrighty. It's just more fun when we can see the pretty colors, isn't it? All right. So this is Pearl Lemon Yellow, and this is Pearl May Green. And the blue is Pearl Cobalt Blue. It's got a beautiful fine consistency, and it's really creamy. Get a little more paint on the brush there. Oh, that's gorgeous. I don't know if you guys can see this. The glitter looks iridescent. It's not just like a plain white glitter. There's little bits of green and pink like a rainbow. It's just gorgeous. I'm going to put a little more pigment in that one. Okay, this set also comes with white gold and I don't know. I wish I had a little piece of black paper ready to go here, but I don't even know where it is to put my hands on it, but I do have a little piece of craft paper here, so maybe we can just take a quick look at that and see. So I do have this pan in my big set, and I use it for highlights, but it also mixes in with other colors and just gives it a pearly, shimmery effect. Well, let's see here. I rushed that a little bit. I find it doesn't take very long, like maybe about a minute, 30 seconds or a minute for the paint to start to take in the water and become workable. Yeah, so it's very silvery, shimmery. Not the best example, but it's a pinch, so. Alrighty. They really catch the light. Raul, I don't follow a lot of other painters on YouTube. I will spend some time probably like maybe once a month or every 6 weeks. There's an illustrator that I've been looking at lately that I have followed. I think his last name is Sava, and he does illustrations for animated movies and a lot of stuff in the Art Nouveau style. But I do find when I'm watching other creators, it's really easy to pick up their habits and their mannerisms, and I don't want to be I don't want to rip anybody off or do that. So right now I'm just trying to stay in my own lane with stuff, so I do kind of limit what I watch. But over on Instagram, I like Andrea Nelson, and she does a lot of simple sorts of sketchbook paintings that are really it includes a lot of exercises that are really good for getting you going and how to get started. And she combines quite a lot of watercolor painting with Sharpie permanent pens and does stuff that are almost, it reminds me of the neurographic painting quite a bit. So, and she's just got a lovely smile and a lovely attitude, and she's so cheery and encouraging. So I do enjoy her work quite a lot. Whoops, that's not pink. Just get everybody tucked back in here. Because, not that these aren't beautiful, but there's more. So I did order a set of what Gansai Tambi is calling opal colors, and they look like interference pigments. So actually I think that interference pigments kind of shift like green, pink, red. And I'm going to hold off on swatching these. I'm going to prepare some black paper because I think they'll really jump on black. But we've got opal pink, opal copper. And I also think these guys will probably show up quite a lot better in daylight instead of all of the assorted artificial lighting I've got on it. But each of these sets of 6 ran a little bit under $14. So opal gold, opal green, opal blue, and opal violet. And they look kind of humble here, but I think we'll really see what those can do when we swatch them on some dark paper. So we'll just take a quick look. And the set that I was very excited about getting is fairly good size set of a 24 color set number 2, and this was advertised as being Art Nouveau colors. So we've got some swatches and a nice little label, technical information on the back. Let's get to the good stuff. Dun, dun, dun. Wait. Y'all ready? I know. They're all those kind of funky, moody, tertiary colors that I just adore. I think the closest we have to a primary, we do have pale aqua, and there's vermilion. And well, they came kind of late in the day, and I got them out and I made sure that everything was as ordered. And then I did. I stopped and I thought about it a minute and thought, well, how do I want to... Because I knew that you guys would be kind of excited about it. You see the cats already had a look. And they were just gorgeous in the sunlight. They're pretty beautiful here too, but so you can see there's quite a few of them. But I think what I'll do is I'll set up, because the inside of the box lids come with this little chart and this little area where you can put in swatches. So they've got these plastic covers. I make a little tabby out of washi tape so that you can lift it out easily. And I've been using these guys for quite a while. So Raul had said, boy, they're not very full, but they last really long time. And then I'll prepare little swatches and then can just tape that into the box. So I'll prepare some watercolor paper and we'll do some swatches to go in here for all of these wonderful new colors. Yeah, I feel like I just paint and paint and paint with these guys. And I know when I first looked at them, I thought, wow, I'll go through those really quickly. But the paint is very concentrated. And darn it. Oh, I get the big set. You see the swatches in that one a little bit more easily. But look at this. Look at this delicious color called Mars Yellow. That's something. Oh, these pebbles. Flax beige. Yep. Anyway, so finally the paints arrived, and I can't wait to make a bunch more backgrounds with all of these wonderful colors. We've got Potter's Pink and yellow brown and cobalt green. Look at this one. This one just looks like sea glass. Wasn't that a beautiful color there? You know, I'm looking at the time. It's 2 hours, and I can't resist. I think we have to swatch a couple of these, don't you? What do you guys want to see? Throw out some colors here, and we'll swatch a handful of these. I can't resist. You talk to me. I think we have to swatch this Mars Yellow. It looks gorgeous. I know, and this whole set, it was under $23, so it's less than $1 a pan. And then I have one in my other set that I've gone through and I use an awful lot, this yellowish green, greenish yellow. So I did order one open stock, and Dick Blick stocks all of the colors in all of the sets except for, I think there's some graphite ones, graphite paints, and they're really interesting. When they dry down, you can take a rag and polish them and they become a little bit shiny. Those they didn't have open stock, but they had all of the metallics, all of the pearls and the opals were available, and they're $2.75 a pan. So getting it in the set, that was quite a lot of savings there. And I had looked at this set at a local Michael's craft store, and they wanted $48, which was full list price on it. But Michael's tends to do an awful lot of the coupon sales, which I don't love. I just wish the store would have a fair price so that you didn't have to go chasing down coupons and stuff. The Mars thing, all right. I think I want something bright in there too. I don't know. Maybe this, I do love a purple. All right, let's just swatch these guys and see what we get. And then we'll wrap it up. clatter, rattle, rattle. I keep looking at this green with them. It's pretty delicious, but I'll try to stick to this for now. Just another quick look at this now. It's all dried down. So I think most of these colors are pretty good in a wash. This one had a little bit of the pigment settle out of it. And that also did, but you see just the straight paint full strength. It looks really true to what the pan color is. All right. I think I got a little carried away with the water there. I'm gonna. What are we looking at? Green gold. All right, there we go. My paper wants to misbehave a little bit here. Alrighty. Ooh. This is one of those cool colors. I can't quite decide if it wants to be yellow or if it wants to be green. Nice. This one is cobalt green. That might be one of my favorite colors. Oh, what's that? I'm just adding I'm just dipping the brush into plain water in between each square. This one is the Mars yellow. It's a really rich, gorgeous color. It reminds me of quinacridone gold quite a lot, actually. And it dilutes beautifully. I'm really very surprised at the subtleties of the Gansai Tambi, because when you see them in their pans, they just look very uniform. But there's like, I think there's a lot of subtlety in the wash that we're, the effects that we're getting with these guys. And just managed to shower myself with old mauve, or mauve, depending on your how you like to pronounce it. I just tipped it up and tipped droplets of water off the top. So he was I was cringing there for a moment because I was pretty sure I'd just showered myself in purple paint, but because I hadn't mixed it in yet, it was still just water droplets. I hope that was my technical difficulty for the evening. Oh yeah. It's a very grayed down purple, but it's gorgeous. I don't think we need quite that much here. Let's see how the next one goes. Okay, stays pretty solid there. Yeah, to compare how beautifully this Mars yellow just makes this beautiful wash, and this one, every paint's a little bit different in the way it dilutes. Just has to do with the type of pigments it has. I think because this one's staying so solid, I'm going to cheat it and give it another bit of water. Let's see if we can really get a nice wash out here. Yeah, it stayed pretty solid here. So did the cobalt green. I find paints that are made with natural pigments dilute much more beautifully than the artificial colors like cadmiums and cobalts, and I'm not much of a fan of phthalo green. I always refer to that as the color that's not found in nature. But I do like the Windsor blue, which is a phthalo blue. It's one of my favorite blues to use, but wow. Oh, now you know. You guys know I want to swatch the entire 24 color set. And if my phone wasn't at 20%, you might be able to talk me into it. But I think we'll call that a video's worth of work. So there's those. Aren't those? They're so shiny. They're so pearly. And they're really, really a different colorway on those pearls. They're just like pastel, like Easter colors. But I do think we'll be able to intermix, particularly the vermilion with that scarlet pearl color, and just have a really gorgeous saturated color. New paint. Well, this is doing something interesting here. It almost looks like it's granulating a little bit in the wash. So that's a surprise bonus. But it's not quite dried down. I think I will just check chat here, and we'll take a couple more minutes and let that dry down and make sure I answered everybody's questions and gave everybody a little bit of encouragement to get out their own, get out your paint, get out your paper, make a little mess, have a little fun. So Maya's saying, yes, black paper is probably best. I think so. I think it'll really show it off a little bit better, so. And we've got some recommendations. Of course, yes. Oh, Raul raises a point that there are art streams within this community that I watch. I do watch Raul. And Maya, if you're still here, would you please, if it's convenient for you, you would drop a link for Raul's channel. He does some kawaii anime, cute anime, and lots of drawings, lots of shorts that are things that I think you could grab your sketch pad and a pencil and follow along with what he's doing. Some really, really fun stuff. And he recently did a Halloween series, so we're right coming up to Halloween season. So everybody check out Raul's page. Maya does wonderful watercolor paintings. And yeah, please put your channel there too, Maya, so that if anybody has not yet, go check out Maya's page and see what she's up to. She also has a pretty deep library of collaborations where she's got bring somebody up on the panel. So there's some side by side videos and some always great conversation about art going on there. And yeah, anybody else in the chat who has a channel and puts up any art content, go ahead and just give a shout out. And so we also have somebody else in this protest community, Fluffer Squirrel, who is very often working on neurographic paintings, so more art therapy from that quarter, and quite a lot of work that is communicating information about high demand religions and cults. So one of the things that brings us together in this community is that we're working to educate people about what is a cult and what is coercive control and how to avoid becoming involved in coercive relationships, whether it be with partners or whether it be with organizations that hold themselves out as being spiritual practices or religions. So we want people to have freedom to choose things that are healthy and to not get sucked into organizations that take advantage of their members. So Fluffer Squirrel is one of the artists in our community, and so very often her work will include phrases that are it's protest via art. So hey, Chocolate Quilts, it's nice to see you. I just adore my return visitors. It's lovely to see you. So yeah, Scientology up north. Wait a minute. Oh, there's Miriam. Well, I was goofing around a little bit further up in the chat. Hello, Miriam. It's lovely to see you. You know me. I always like to sneak a little protest work in at the end of the live stream, and we've been swatching some new paint. We got a new set of pearl paints. Got all of the outlining done on an 8-inch square pebble drawing. So after all that deep thinking about cults, we do like to do a little something to reset and try to calm down the old nervous system and find some peace. So here's just another quick look at the paints we swatched earlier. Got a whole new tray of luscious Art Nouveau inspired gouache paints. So we'll get to liven up the palette in the upcoming live streams. Yeah, tell us. Let's see if the power cord will reach, and I would love to hear what you're up to today in Denmark. If I can sneak the power cord over, we might be able to get a few more minutes here, and we always want to make time for the good work. It is Kuretaki brand Gansai Tambi. And at full strength, it works like a gouache. So that's an opaque water-based paint. And then it dilutes. We were doing some swatches where we were diluting to see what happens. And it's not quite as... It's not perfect as a watercolor paint, but it's got a lot of versatility. So if this color was a watercolor paint, this square wouldn't have probably washed out as much. But I think, especially at the price point, it's very reasonably priced. It's very accessible. The colors are really vibrant and beautiful. And I've used the solid colors for a while, so I just had made an order that arrived today and had ordered some of the smaller sets that include pearl colors. And I'll have to remember to take those out of the set to let them dry out, but Kuretaki, Gansai Tambi. And we're in the next couple of videos. I might do a short one where I just outline a pebble, but I'll do a little bit of a longer one where we'll swatch these opalescent colors. And we'll do that on some black paper so they'll really show up. I think from here they might just look just slightly different from one another, but when you put them on a black background, they really show. Miriam is okay. Maya says she's found 2 other Norwegians in the SPTV, so she put them to work. She is organizing Scientology protest. So here's the newest set. It's got this lovely Art Nouveau illustration on the label. Yeah, there's no Scientologist like a former Scientologist. Those are the best kind. Yeah, did you guys catch any of, Aaron did an interview with the son of Chester Benningfield from Lincoln Park today, and I watched that for a while, and I have a lot of empathy and compassion for that young man, but I have to say I found it to be a bit incomprehensible. I think he's quite a ways further down his inquiry than I just couldn't keep up with all of the twists and turns that he was describing, but it certainly, he is a young man deserving of compassion, and I think it will be interesting to see how this discussion plays out. I do really appreciate that we've got something that is culturally significant, and it's really got a lot of people talking about Scientology, talking about the ways that people who are in Scientology are trained, and the way that they behave towards their particularly the disconnection, I think, has been a topic that has come up quite a bit. So I'm feeling a little saturated with the whole discussion about Linkin Park. It's a band that was, I think I'm a little bit older. I think their fans probably skew younger than I am, so I wasn't I'd heard some of their songs and whatnot, but it wasn't anything that was just, like I don't have any of their albums. I don't have anything negative to say about their music. It just, kind of was born in the era of more classic rock and roll, so. But yeah, the internets are just burning up talking about Scientology right now, and I think it'll be interesting to get tangled out, how much of this is just a reaction against bringing a woman into a rock band that was formerly fronted by a man. I think we've got some folks in the mix that are just saying she can't sing this music, and it has to do with gender discrimination. So I don't like that, but I certainly think that her being an active Scientologist and her mother being the person who drafts policy for David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology, that is somebody that we should pay attention to what they're doing. We should pay attention to the influence that they have on other people. And if they're using the tool of a popular rock band to exert their influence, then we definitely do need to talk about that and be aware of it, and certainly warn people away from joining Scientology just because something that's popular is bringing it into public attention. Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Well, we've done that thing that we do with live streams, which is to just get really hopping in the chat and people coming in that last half hour. One of these days I'll figure out how to put that last half hour at the first half hour of our live streams, and we'll just start it a run. But I guess this is how we're going to roll. I want to thank everybody for coming in and spending time. I want to thank you for your kindness to one another in the chat. I appreciate that. It's really important to treat other people decently in the world. I want to encourage you to take some time this week, especially if you're engaged in some work that's just taking it out of you mentally, if it's emotionally hard work. Make some time to get out, take a walk in nature. If you can, get to your workbench, do a little bit of creative work. Be kind to yourself. Be creative. Thank you all for coming, and I'll see you on the next live stream. Good night.